How do, everybody? Let me just double check something real quick. Okay, always got to be paranoid about the microphone, because you never know when the microphone's just going to decide, haha, I don't want to work for you anymore. Oh, is my mouse finally dead? Did the battery in this thing finally die? No, it just didn't want to track. Okay, thank you, mouse, for being unreliable. Okay, but anyway, how do, everybody, and welcome to a new Let's Play. We are playing Dark Souls, specifically the Prepare to Die edition. The original Dark Souls was released in 2011. Prepare to Die edition was released in the States in 2012 as a PC port that was bundled with the Artorias of the Abyss DLC. So, we will have full access to everything in the game, minus the online features. Those have been gone for a while now. But for the purpose of a Let's Play, that's actually a good thing. Because that means we're not going to have random people trying to PvP us as we're trying to show off an area and help teach people how to navigate it and so on and so forth. So, this episode's not probably going to be much in the way of forward progress. There's going to be a lot of front-loaded explaining for this one. So, I'm going to go ahead and create my character here. There we go. Make sure to put the LP tag on there. I am male. And now we have classes. Classes will determine your starting stats, which you can see under the name and all that info down there where the level, vitality, all that stuff is. Those are your stats. You can change your class and you'll see how these will affect things. Classes in this game really don't matter. You're not limited by what class you pick. You can pick any class you want and build into anything. Like, you can choose the knight, the big tanky boy, and build him as a wizard if you want. Conversely, you can also build a thief. You can also start as a thief and build them up to be like a giant two-handed barbarian if you wanted to. You know, you're not restricted by your class into any sort of build. They just kind of have starting stats and equipment that might give you a good sort of head start on whatever build it is you're looking for. Personally, if you want my opinion, the best classes to start with, especially if you're a beginner, are Warrior. Warrior has probably the most balanced stats for experimentation with weapons, so that way you can kind of try different weapon classes, see which one feels right to you, and then you can build your playstyle around that. Bandit is also a really good starting class, especially if you want to go for melee, primarily because of their equipment draw more than their stats. Their battle axe is okay. Their armor is surprisingly light for how protective it is, and of the starting classes, they start with the best shield, which makes the beginning of the game, I'd say probably the first third of the game, a lot easier. Pyromancer is also a recommended beginner class because the Pyromancer starts at level 1. The reason that's important is because this is an action RPG. I would argue it's also a 3D Metroidvania in a way once we actually get into the main game map, but the way it works is you don't have traditional experience points. You have a universal currency in the souls of your enemies. You can use them like experience to purchase level ups, but they're also your money. You use them to perform transactions with merchants. And the amount of souls you need to purchase a level goes up as you gain more levels. So starting at level 1 means you'll have the cheapest starting levels and you'll have more freedom with your souls, if that makes sense. You can get more bang for your buck in the early levels, if that it probably is the best way to describe it. Classes I would not recommend starting as. I would not recommend starting as the knight. They're basically the warrior, but worse. Because the big thing with this game is, even with heavy armor, you are going to be taking a lot of damage if anything hits you, so being evasive is better than being tanky. And the knight's kind of about being tanky. Let's see, I also would not recommend the hunter unless you really want to be reliant on your sword, which in that case, why are you taking a ranged class if you're just going to be using melee anyway? I also wouldn't suggest cleric, mostly just because miracles in this game are kind of subpar. They're mostly useful for outside of battle healing, and that's about it. There are exceptions, of course, and I'll go over that as we find them. But if you're playing for the first time, definitely consider either Warrior, Pyromancer, or Bandit. I'm personally going to be a Warrior. That's what I'm more comfortable playing with because it works with the build that I have in mind. Next here we have starting gifts. We can start with nothing. You can also start with the pendant, which is just as well. The pendant doesn't do anything. Everybody knows about the huge gag that Miyazaki played on people with the pendant. Goddess's blessings are effectively elixirs. They fully restore your HP if you drink them. They also remove any status effects. Black fire bombs are a consumable that emulates the fire orbs pyromancy, which I will go into when we get there. Twin Humanities is a consumable item that fully restores your HP and gives you 2 humanity, which is that stat on the bottom. Binoculars, they let you peer at distant scenery if you want to use them. You can get them for free not too long after the tutorial, so picking this is a waste. The Master Key lets you unlock multiple basic doors. If you start as a thief, you'll have the Master Key by default, but any class can pick it as a starting gift. This is probably the best starting gift in the game and the one I'll be taking. The Tiny Beings Ring, despite what that description says, it does not regenerate your HP. It gives you a small increase to your HP. I think in this game it's like 5% or something. It's a really small amount. And the Old Witch's Ring, an ancient ring with no obvious effect, that is used for a very specific NPC that we won't be seeing for a while, but we have other means of getting it. And that's actually one of the really nice things about these starting gifts. None of these are missable. You can find these in the game world in some form or fashion. Like Goddess's Blessings, Black Fire Bombs. These are consumable items. You can find these in chests. Merchants will sell these. Twin Humanities you'll find periodically as loot. Enemies can drop them. The binoculars have a guaranteed spawn in the starting area. The pendants, a guaranteed drop from an NPC. You can buy the Master Key from a merchant. The Tiny Beings Ring you get as a quest reward, I think. And the Old Witch's Ring you can trade with an NPC to get. So none of these are like take it now or miss it forever. I'm going with the Master Key. Let's see, average build. I like going for the classic Xena appearance. Yeah, we'll go with classic Xena. I want my hair to be swept back. I'll go over stats and stuff once we're actually in the game itself, because the game can explain some of it for you, but I'll be going in a little bit more detail. So I'm not going to be going too hard on my character's face, because probably around the halfway point or so, you won't be seeing my character's face at all anyway. So it's not going to be too big a deal if he looks like a complete monster. However, I'm just going to do some simple hair and eye adjustments. Let's blue and a little bit less on the green. About there, I think, should be fine. Yeah, it's about halfway. That'll do. Maybe add a little bit of red. Make it kind of steely. Yeah, steely blue. I like that. Okay. And then that should do. Okay, and this will be our character. Let's get started. Before I get started, however, I'm sure some of you will be wondering why I'm playing this and not the remastered version. I'm playing the remastered version on my own time. The Stooges are having something with that at some point down the line. We don't know when, but that's part of the plan. And as mentioned before, the online for this version doesn't work, so I'm not going to be getting interrupted by invaders constantly. However, when it comes to content, aside from a few very minor differences, there is no meaningful difference between Prepare to Die Edition and Remastered. I think at most a couple of items have been, like one particular item that I know of has had its location moved, and you get a couple of extra menu options, and that's about it. So anything that I say here will more or less apply to Remastered unless I say otherwise. So with that, let's get started.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire. And with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty lords peeled apart their stone skins. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers, and man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark sign. Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
And here we are in the Northern Undead Asylum. So I'm going to go over some basic controls, mainly around menu navigation, and I'm also going to explain bits of the HUD and the UI. So starting with the HUD, up there in the top left, we have our main heads-up display. The red bar is our HP, the green bar is our stamina. Dark Souls well, not Dark Souls itself, Demon Souls technically did it first, but Dark Souls is a game in the Soulsborne or Souls-like genre. And one of the things that most people think of when they think of a Soulsborne game is they think of stamina management-based combat. Any major combat action that you take will deplete that stamina bar, whether it be attacking, dodging, or doing whatever. You'll notice it's going down every action I take, and it regenerates on its own. Blocking attacks and other such actions will also drain it. If you run out of stamina, you can't do anything else until it regenerates. Something important to note is if your stamina completely drains and goes into the negative, you'll notice it takes a second before it actually starts regenerating again. So you do want to be careful about your stamina whenever you're in combat. Let's see. And the final thing on the main HUD is that 0-0 up there. That is our humanity counter. That will go... I'll go into detail on that when we actually have some humanity, but that's how you keep track of how many you have on you. For specification purposes, that is referred to as soft or liquid humanity. We will later find consumable items that are also called humanity. Those are known as solid or hard humanities. So anyway, down there below that, you see those little icon spaces. Those are kind of like your hotbar slots or whatever. They're tied to the D-pad. So right now, if I press right on the D-pad, I can swap between my right-hand weapon slots. If I had anything in my left hand, pressing left would let me swap between my left and right hand my left-hand weapon slots. Down is for your belts or like your consumable items, and up is for spells if you have any. And then finally, on the bottom right, that is our soul counter. As we kill stuff, we get souls. So now to access the menu, you press start. And we have 4 different submenus here. You have the main inventory, which lets you see everything that you own, divided up into very convenient little tabs. So we have our usable items or consumables, our smithing materials, which we don't have any of yet, key items, spell scrolls, weapons and shields, ammunition, armor, and rings. So something you can do is if you look down there at the bottom, you can see like item menu, use item, drop it, rearrange or reset your item order. You can press B to close the menu. Y is toggle status, which lets you look at the status on the right side of the screen so you can see your stats and stuff. X is toggle display, which for most items lets you look at item descriptions. And most of the story and the lore in Dark Souls is told through these item descriptions. Like this one, the Dark Sign. The Dark Sign signifies an accursed undead. Those branded with it are reborn after death, but will one day lose their mind and go hollow. Death triggers the Dark Sign, which returns its bearer to the last bonfire rested at, but at the cost of all humanity and souls. So this Dark Sign is how we know we are undead. And the important thing from this is that we will one day lose our mind and go hollow. Black Separation Crystal. This black crystal, long a symbol of farewell, is granted to banished undead. The crystal sends phantoms back to their homes or sends you back to yours. Beware of fickle use of this item if you intend to nurture relations. I will probably never use this because this is an online play item. It's useful for a placeholder and nothing else. Let's see. We also have the master key that we got. This universal key opens any basic lock, tool of the trade for thieves. But in the cursed land of the undead, most doors are better left unopened. And we have the straight sword hilt, the weapon that we start with. Now, because this is a weapon, the first time you hit the toggle display button, it actually shows you the weapon's stats. So you see here, this weapon does 100 physical damage, and it has a critical modifier of 100. It has EE scaling with strength and dex. No special auxiliary effects. If we tried to block with it, it would block 20% of physical damage, 5% of magic damage, 15% of fire and lightning damage, and stability is 10. Stability is how much of the damage is reduced before being taken out of your stamina. Let's see, it requires 6 strength and 6 dexterity to wield, has max durability, and weighs 1 unit of weight. Now, I don't think I can actually look at the various stats and what these do here. So I'll go over those in a minute when I actually have a proper weapon. Let's see, sturdy helm. A sturdy helm made of iron. Very common type of protective gear. It provides a sound level of defense. It is wise to wear a sturdy form of head protection against arrows and other physical threats. Hard leather armor. Armor made of thick leather. Very common type of protective gear. It provides a sound level of defense. And as you can see, most of these are the same basic thing, so I'll probably not be showing every item description, just stuff that's noteworthy. Like this dungeon cell key, for example. That's the wrong button. Let's see. Sala 76658. I'm literally driving right now, but when I park, me and my squad are pulling up heavy to your next stream. Oh, that sounds... yeah, possible ban evader. That sounds like a bot. I'm going to delete that message. Yeah, you're asking me to follow you on Discord. That's a bot. So, yeah, likely ban evader. Goodbye. Okay, so let's take a look at that key that gentleman so kindly dropped down to us. Key to the dungeon of the undead asylum to the north. A mysterious knight, without saying a word, shoved a corpse down into the cell, and on its person was this key. Who was this knight, and what was his purpose? There may be no answers, but one must still forge ahead. And that key lets us go out of this door. Now, before I go out of there, I want to explain some more menu elements. That was the main inventory. Going over to one to the right, this is our equipment. We can change our equipment. We can also look at item descriptions for items here as well. I want to unequip the straight sword hilt because it does the same basic damage as my fists, but it costs more stamina to use. I also want to remove my hard leather armor because that weighs me down. You may have noticed when I was showing off stamina earlier, I was doing a very clumsy looking roll and only just barely recovering afterwards. So this is a much better roll, and I want to try and keep this roll speed if at all possible. Now, we also have some tutorial messages, so I'll probably go over these in more detail than the game probably could. Let's see, next on the menu, I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. I do apologize for that. Over here is status. Now, this one actually lets us look at all the stats and see what they do. So, let's see, the select button is explanation. So we'll start with, well, name, obviously. Covenants are something we'll get into once we actually leave the tutorial area. Level is your soul level. Basically, level's primary purpose is for online interactions because, at least in this version of the game, it was based on a range between the soul level of the host and the soul level of the client. I believe the general rule of thumb for that was 10% plus or minus 10? Or no, it was 10 plus or minus 10% of the host's level. Souls is how many souls you have. Now let's actually go into stats. Vitality, parameter determining HP. Vitality boosts your HP, and it also raises your defenses slightly. Leveling up in general does that, but Vitality, I think, does actually give some defenses. Most stats have diminishing returns after 40. So, generally speaking, for a standard one-time playthrough, you don't want to get a stat above 40 unless you're going for a really specific build. Attunement slots. This goes into magic. Most Soulsborne games use a mana system, and attunement is how many spells you can have to choose from. It still works that way here, but instead of having a mana bar, Dark Souls 1 and I believe Dark Souls 2 as well use a Vancian magic system where it's a spells per day kind of thing, and you can only restore them by resting at a bonfire. So what this does is it basically allows us to equip more spells. Endurance. Endurance is probably one of the most important stats in the game, if not the most important, because the primary thing it does is it boosts your stamina. More stamina means you can do more stuff. It also boosts your equipment load, which is the main factor that determines your roll speed. If you keep your equip load below 25%, you get the nice quick roll that we have. And it also raises your bleed resistance. Let's see, strength. Strength is a scaling stat for most melee weapons. A majority of weapons will scale off of strength to some form, very few don't. And all weapons, regardless of what kind they are, have a minimum strength requirement. If you do not meet that requirement, you cannot use the weapon to its full effectiveness. You'll do reduced damage, and instead of actually hitting an enemy, it'll like glance off of them and leave you open. Now, the big thing with strength is one of the things we'll learn later is how to two-hand a weapon. Two-handing a weapon reduces the... I want to say it reduces the strength requirement by 25%? Because I know you need 75% of the... You need 75% of the requirements for a weapon to two-hand it. So anytime you see a strength parameter requirement, that is telling you the requirement to one-hand it. A good example of that is a weapon we'll find later that has a strength requirement of 24. You can two-hand it if you have 16. Dexterity is another melee weapon scaling stat. It also determines the scaling for bows. Like strength, most weapons have a dexterity requirement to use. Unlike strength, however, two-handing does not affect this requirement, so you need to make sure you actually meet the dexterity requirement to use said weapons. Resistance is a dump stat. It boosts your defenses. I mentioned earlier that leveling up stats in general will do that. Resistance does it more, and also raises your poison resistance. The main problem with this is even with really excuse me, even with really good defenses, you're still going to be taking a lot of damage from even the really weak stuff, as long as you're kind of on par for where the game expects you to be. So resistance really doesn't help too much, and poison resistance you can get plenty of for equipment, or from equipment. So yeah, you really don't need resistance at all. It's a dump stat. I wouldn't recommend investing in it unless you're doing a joke run. Intelligence, like strength and dexterity, is a scaling stat specifically for spells. And pyromancy, no, not pyromancies. Pyromancies are fixed. I know in later games they scale off of int, but intelligence is primarily for sorceries and magic damage. There will be some weapons that scale off of it, and there are very, very few weapons that actually have intelligence as a weapon requirement, but they are there. So, same deal as strength and dex. Unlike strength, but like dex, two-handing a weapon will not reduce its intelligence requirement. And faith is basically intelligence, but for miracles, which is one of the other magic classes. It also determines what miracles you can cast. Int is the same way. Spells have either a minimum requirement of int or faith in order to cast them, depending on what it is. Pyromancies are the only school of magic that don't care what your stats are. Aside from attunement, you can use any pyromancy you wish, provided you have the attunement slot for it. And then humanity. Humanity is a stat I'll go over when we actually have humanity. And now for derived stats. HP. Don't let this bottom out, you'll die. Stamina, I explained earlier. I also explained equip load. Now, this is showing the attack values of the various weapons we have. That's your base attack power, I think, that before it gets modified by other things like defenses and buffs. And down here we have the basic defenses. Your basic physical defense, so all physical attacks will defend against this to some form. Specifically, I believe that is your defense against regular damage. And then you have it divided up into strike, slash, and thrust, which are dealt by different kinds of weapons. Strike is blunt weapons like a mace or a club. Slash is like a sword or any other kind of slashing attack. I think axes do slash. And thrust is things like spears, arrows, that kind of stuff. Magic is mostly dealt by sorceries and some offensive miracles. What few there are, some of them do magic damage. Flame defense reduces the damage of most pyromancies because they do fire damage. Basically, that's it. Lightning defense is probably the hardest defense to get your hands on because very few armors have really good lightning defense. To the point where the community sees lightning damage as sort of like armor piercing, because very few armors give any meaningful lightning defense, and there's no buffs to help you defend against it. Like, physical defense, you can get a buff that helps you defend against it, not very well, but it's there. Magic Defense has a buff spell that can protect you against it, and Fire has a defense spell that can protect you against it, but not Lightning. Poise. Poise is a semi-hidden stat, and it's basically flinch resistance whenever you get attacked. Any poise with a value of less than 20 is basically worthless because the weakest attacks in the game do 20 poise damage. The best way to describe poise is you want to imagine it as kind of like an invisible meter on your HUD that goes down whenever you take damage, and if it bottoms out, you flinch. And like I said, the weakest attacks in the game do 20 damage to your poise, and it doesn't matter how powerful a weapon is. It's determined by the weapon type, not what the attack power is. So, like a dagger, for example, does 20 poise damage, regardless of whether it's a base form dagger or if you have it maxed out. It will always do 20 poise damage. Then you have resistances to various status effects. We have Bleed. Bleed does not do what you think it does. It's not a damage over time. Bleed's actually really nasty. What Bleed does is whenever you get afflicted with Bleed, you will lose between, I believe it's 30 to 50% of your maximum health instantly on the spot. So, yeah, having good Bleed resist is very, very nice. Poison resistance actually gives you protection from two status effects, because there's poison, and then there's a worse form of poison called toxic. Both are based off of your poison resistance. Poison and toxic both work the same way. When you get those status ailments afflicted on you, you take damage over time. Toxin is just way worse than poison. And then we have Curse. Curse is a really nasty status effect that if you catch it will kill you on the spot, and when you respawn, your health gets cut in half. Curse resistance is kind of similar to Lightning, where Curse resistance is very hard to come by. There's no, like, spells to help you against it either. Because, like, well, there's a spell that can help you cure it, but the circumstances in which you need to cast that are so few and far between, it's not really helpful. And then you have Item Discovery, which determines the likelihood of an enemy dropping an item when you kill them. But that's basically the stats in a nutshell. And then the final part of the menu is your standard settings. You can adjust various settings or quit the game if you want to. Dark Souls auto-saves periodically. So, like, for example, when I kill this guy, watch the top left corner, or top right. Okay, it didn't appear. But you may sometimes notice a little flame symbol flickering in the top right of the screen. That's the game's indication for auto-saving, and it auto-saves periodically. So that should be the menu explanation, so let's follow these tutorial messages. Right stick, camera controls. Fairly simple. They are not inverted, so you move the stick right, the camera moves right, and so on. It can take a bit to get used to, because every game is different in that regard. Right bumper, attack. I am playing on this with an Xbox 360 controller, by the way. So right bumper is specifically what is known as light attack. It uses less stamina, does less damage. Right trigger is strong attack. Does a little bit more damage. Let's see, a light attack does 13. Large attack does, let's see, now that was cumulative, so large attack did 17? Left stick plus hold B is dash. You can hold B to sprint. You can see that kind of consumes stamina over time. Press the right stick to hold and release target lock, which lets you lock onto a target. As far as the enemy HUD is concerned, the only thing you will ever see of an enemy's heads-up display is their health bar. You just see it above their head. You kill them, you damage them, it goes down, empties out, they die. These basic little enemies down here are hollows. These are like full hollows. They're crazy zombies that attack people on sight for the most part. Weakest enemies in the game to give the least amount of souls, but they're good tutorial enemies. And here we have a bonfire. Rest at bonfire, recover HP, so we want to go ahead and light this. Now, bonfires are like inns. When you rest at them, they fully recover your HP, recharge your spells, and cure any status effects you might have that aren't curse. Now, I fell back down here to take a little bit of fall damage, both to show you that fall damage is in fact a thing, and because we took damage when we rest at this bonfire, it does in fact restore our health. Now, something else that a bonfire does, I don't believe the game will mention it yet, but if we head back down here... Having rested at the bonfire, all these little hollow dudes are back. Any non-unique enemy will respawn when you rest at a bonfire. So now I'm probably going to be quiet because the game doesn't expect you to win this fight, but I'm going to anyway. There is a boss in this room, and I'm going to make an endeavor to kill it with my bare hands. Get away. We are not going to get away. We are going to punch this guy to death. So this is the Asylum Demon. He has, like, I think 2,000 HP or something. He has a lot, so we're going to be punching him for about 20 minutes or so. The safest way to fight this guy is to try and get behind him and just punch him in the butt like 3 or 4 times whenever he does anything that leaves him open. This guy's probably one of the easiest bosses in the game. As far as like standard bosses that aren't gimmicks go, he's the easiest. Like, if you screw around, he'll definitely kill you, and he's designed to teach you that, well, yeah, he's designed to teach a lot of things, but, like, he's your tutorial boss, so he's here to test what you learned and make sure you've got the mechanics down enough to where you can at least progress with the rest of the game. If you can't kill this guy, you're not ready for the remainder of the game itself. But the combat in the Soulsborne games is largely skill-based, with very few exceptions. Most Soulsborne boss fights do not require any amount of luck. Okay, I also want to apologize if you saw my screen flash there. I don't know why, but the Dark Souls games just like doing that. Just randomly on my PC. It looks like on the... Okay, I'm actually looking at the stream feed, and it looks like it just froze on Twitch. It didn't actually show the white flash. But for whatever reason... Oh, okay, I mistimed that roll really badly. Whew, that's better. But, for whatever reason, the Dark Souls games just, like, randomly white or black screening me for, like, a second or two. And every single one of them does that. It's not just Prepare to Die Edition. Remastered does that, and Dark Souls 3 does that. I don't know why. It only ever happens, like, once per session, so now that it's happened, it won't happen again. But anyway, the Asylum Demon. He has a few very predictable and easy-to-dodge attacks. There's only a few that can potentially catch you. They all do physical damage, so you don't have to worry about, like, investing in magic defense or anything. And yeah, he's just really simple. I'd say the biggest thing is just mind the environment. You can roll through the vases that are around here to give yourself a little bit more room to maneuver. And Fatty himself here will just destroy the pillars in your way. Ooh. So you'll notice I'm not going too overboard on the aggression. I'm usually getting in 2, maybe 3 hits, and then letting my stamina recharge, always leaving at least a little bit to perform a roll in case I need to dodge. When it comes to dodging, for the most part, you want to dodge into an enemy's attacks and not away from it. Unless you can do something like that where you're trying to stick to a specific location. Now, something to note if you're playing this, or I think Remastered does this too, compared to other later Soulsborne games like Dark Souls 3, Elden Ring, or I think Bloodborne's the one that actually started doing this, is you can only roll in 4 directions, which is forward, back, and to the sides. There's no omnidirectional rolling in this game, so you have to be very mindful of where your roll will potentially take you if the camera suddenly shifts. Now, a nice trick that I learned for potentially dealing with this guy is, as you'll notice, his collision hitbox is actually pretty accurate to his model, so there's enough space between his tail and his butt crack to actually just kind of walk between. So as long as you can stay under his tail, he really has a hard time hitting you. That butt stomp attack of his is really the only one that can hit you there. And he telegraphs that so hard, you'd have to be going so aggressive you'd be blind to what he's doing to get hit by it. That being said, I have been clipped by it before, so don't take my word as gospel. I'm nowhere near perfect. Now, I guess I can take this opportunity to explain how the dodge roll actually works, because the game hasn't explained to us how to do it yet. You press B to do a dodge roll, like that. Now, this isn't a strictly get-out-of-the-way dodge roll, but it's also not a you are completely just invulnerable while doing it dodge roll either. It's very similar to how Kingdom Hearts does its dodge rolls, where you are invincible during the dive, but during the actual roll, you have to recover. And the ratio of invincibility to recovery frames is dependent on your weight. There's like multiple mini brackets alongside the main brackets. There's a whole bunch of YouTubers who have done in-depth analyses on how those systems actually work. But for explanation purposes and for keeping it simple, there are 4 primary weight brackets when it comes to your roll. Which is determined by the percentage of your current weight compared to your maximum. If it's below 25%, you will do what is known as a fast roll, which is the one I'm doing. It gives you the most amount of iframes of the regular rolls while also minimizing your recovery frames. Something also special to note is during the recovery frames, some of the recovery frames are flagged as instability frames, where if you actually get hit during those, you will take more damage. The fast roll of the regular rolls has the fewest instability frames, but they are there. So just something to keep in mind. If you are between, I believe it is 25.1 and 50%, you will do the roll that I was doing at the beginning before I took my armor off, which is known as a mid-roll. You get the same amount of iframes that you would... Oh, mispressed that. Pressed it too slow. Woo! Whew. You get the same amount of iframes from a mid-roll that you do at a fast roll, but you have way more recovery and instability frames. I believe it is from 50.1% to 99.9%. You do what is known as a fat roll. And a fat roll, you literally just like flop on your back during the dive and you struggle to get back up. You get very few iframes doing that, and the recovery and instability frames are nuts. And then if you are over 100% equip load, you can't roll at all, and attempting to will just cause you to stagger. So generally speaking, I want to try and stay below 25% equip load as much as possible. Ooh, that was close. suppose I should also mention, going back onto the topic of the dodge rolls, there is actually a fifth bracket, but, well, a fifth main bracket, not one of the mini brackets, but in order to get that, you need a very specific item, and I will go over that when I actually get said item, because it is one I do plan on using. But, yeah, there is more than I'm explaining. It's just I'm trying to keep the discussion mostly relevant when I have something to discuss, because right now I'm just trying to give this guy a colonoscopy. And unfortunately, he's just got way too much fat going on back there for me to really make any meaningful progress. Though, that being said, I'm surprised a tiny human fist reinforced with hard leather gloves can actually do anything meaningful to this guy. Because, like, you'd think this would just bounce right off. Because, at least based on the texturing, his skin looks at least kind of scaly, if a little bit scarred. So, you'd think a human fist, even swinging with all your might, would just bounce right off. Whoa! Also, Haldo Abstract, I can't read your messages at the moment because, unfortunately, Dark Souls, you cannot pause. So, let's see. Knight and Master Key. I am actually a warrior, not a knight, but I do have the Master Key, yes. Vanguard was my second guess, dang D&D names. Actually, funnily enough, you mentioned Vanguard was a D&D name. Dark Souls, as a lot of people probably know, is actually a spiritual successor to Demon Souls, which was released on PlayStation 3. I believe the original was released in 2009. And as a spiritual successor made by FromSoft, a lot of the mechanics and assets were actually reused, just given a fresh coat of paint. Specifically, the Asylum Demon here, he has an analog in Demon Souls where his appearance isn't exactly the same, but his moveset and his purpose is more or less identical to a demon called Vanguard, who is designed very similarly to guard the tutorial area. And much like this guy, you're not intended to kill him the first time you come across him, but you most definitely can. Demon Souls is one of those games that I'd like to play at some point, but I don't have a PlayStation 3 and or PlayStation 5, nor do I plan on getting one. So, my means of actually getting to play Demon Souls at some point are rather limited. Ooh, that was close. So So, probably one of the biggest tips I can give if you're attempting to do this with the Asylum Demon and you're not just running past him is don't focus on his health bar, just focus on him, focus on dodging. You'll kill him eventually. Go around the front. Whoop. Yep, there we go. Yeah, he can be pinned against the doorway there. Whoa! There's a little bit of collision jank there, but I managed to dodge through it anyway. It looks like I got hung up on his tail or something. That can happen. Since I am playing an older version of the game, some jank is to be expected. Got him! People are going for the Great Demon, Great Hammer. Good luck, have fun. This is a series, yeah, so I should keep story boss spoilers to a 0. I always chicken out and do the Thief Black Fire Bombs for the easy kill. Killing him with my fists is something of a ritual at this point for me. Because I'm just so used to doing it. So we did get a humanity for that. That is a hard or solid humanity. You can consume that to fully restore your HP and increase your liquid humanity count by 1. I won't be doing that yet. I might do it later when more humanity is called for, but for now, no big deal. But yeah, as you can see, if you actually kill him the first go-around, if you kill him the second go-around after you actually get a proper weapon, you won't get this. You get his weapon, the Demon's Great Hammer. Demon weapon built from the stone arch trees, used by lesser demons at North Undead Asylum. This hammer is imbued with no special power, but can merely beat foes to a pulp, provided you have the strength to wield it. So if you actually look at it, this requires 46 strength to to one hand, sorry. I think that's something like... It's like somewhere in the, like, mid-30s, I think, to two-hand that. So, yeah, you need a lot of strength to use that. It's not even one of the better, like, great hammers, either. I actually forgot to read some tutorial messages. Sorry. Riding the high of defeating a boss. Get your shield. Let's see, I do the Black Firebomb quit out glitch to keep him alive and return to one-hit kill. Ah, okay. Yeah, I don't do glitches, as most people know. I'll show off some funny ones if I happen to know them, but for Dark Souls, that's not really a thing. Open menu, arms icon, change equipment. Yep, I went over that before. So shields are best put in your left hand, which you can then block with them. So holding left bumper with a shield equipped will let you block. Whenever you block a hit, you'll notice it took away some of my stamina. How much stamina is taken away is dependent upon the shield stability stat. So what it does is that it's based on a percentage. 55 stability means 55% of the damage on your stamina is reduced. So something also important to note about the heater shield that we start with is that this is probably the second best starting shield. Because it gives you 100% physical resistance, which in my opinion is a must-have for all shields in this game. And it has a whopping 70 fire resistance, along with having some pretty decent stability at 55%. So most of the damage you're going to be encountering in the early game is physical, fire, and poison. So the heater shield is a really good shield to start with, and one of the reasons why I recommended the warrior. And then, you know, you can use the D-pad to change weapons. Now, we also picked up our sword. We have our longsword. Now, I believe with this equipped, I won't be able to fast roll anymore. No, I'm going to have to take my gloves off. There we go. Let's merrily cut this guy to pieces. And here we have a white light / a fog wall. These are kind of interspersed throughout the levels at various points. Usually they denote a transition along the halfway mark, usually. Or they also mark boss doors. And this is where the game teaches how to dodge. Pressing the dodge button without moving the stick, you do a backstep. The backstep, I think, is a standard defensive maneuver that is not affected by your weight. It gives you very few iframes. As you can see, you're not in the air for very long. Like, it's the very beginning of the backstep where you kind of kick your feet forward a little bit when you leave the ground. I think you have iframes during that, but that's about it. There's a lot of instability frames at the end of it, too. So backstepping's kind of risky. I don't like doing it. So this gate here, if you open it, one of the things that a lot of people praise the original Dark Souls for is its level design. And there is a lot of looping paths going back to previous areas. So we do want to rest here. Not that we needed to, but it's always good to update the bonfire just in case you die. So now we gotta go up these stairs, and that looks a bit suspicious. I wonder what that thing is. Oh, it's a trap! A trap that blew open a wall, and hey, you're the guy who let us out.
Oh, you. You're no hollow. Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I, we're both undead. Hear me out, will you?
I mean, I look like beef jerky stuck to a skeleton, but yeah, my mind's still intact. What's up?
Regrettably, I have failed in my mission. But perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family. Thou who art undead art chosen. And thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know. And I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask. An undead favorite. Oh, and this.
So we got an Estus flask. Now, normally, he's only supposed to give you the Undead Asylum Floor 2 East key, and you get the big Pilgrim's key. The big Pilgrim's key from killing the Asylum Demon the second go-around. But since we killed him first, this guy, whose name is Oscar, by the way, I don't think his name's ever mentioned anywhere, outside of like supplementary materials. But this is Oscar of Astora.
Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. You have given me an Estus flask. Now, if we actually look at our inventory, we now have, or our equipped items rather, up here, let's see, this is your right hand. We have our 2 weapons we can swap between. Left hand, which is for shields. 4 armor slots for head, chest, hands, and feet. You have arrows for these sections, bolts, crossbow bolts. You have 2 ring slots. And then up here is your consumable items / belt slots. I always like having the Estus on here because the Estus is an infinitely refillable healing source. You can have anywhere between 5 and 20 charges of Estus, depending on how stoked the bonfire you rest at is. And every time you rest at a bonfire... Oh no! He committed suicide. Why would you do that? Actually, we know why he did that. But, he did that because he doesn't want to go hollow. But, Estus is refilled at bonfires, and it recharges HP based on what level it is. So now we're actually going to be encountering... We technically had one already with that guy that was shooting at us, but now we have hollows with broken swords. These guys are actually going to fight back. And get parried like chumps. Expect to see that a lot. I have played through this game many times. I've learned the parry timings for almost everything that can be parried and will make this game look a lot easier than it actually is because parrying is basically second nature to me. So let's see. Wield right weapon two-handed, which we can do. Not gonna, but we can. Left stick and right bumper is kick. Left stick and right trigger is a jump attack. Kicking is good for knocking things off ledges and disrupting guards. Jump attacks are good for initiatives, and I believe jump attacks can't be parried. Resting at bonfire revives enemies, and something you want to be doing a lot in Dark Souls is being careful taking blind corners, because the game loves setting up ambushes and traps. Might be mentioned in the item description, such as the way of FromSoft. Dang, you didn't make me buy this game. Good luck buying this game, Abstract. You can't buy Prepare to Die Edition on Steam anymore. The only way you'd be able to get it, like specifically Prepare to Die, is through third-party resellers selling keys, and those go for like upwards of $400. So if you want to play Dark Souls, you'd probably be better off playing the remaster, which, as I mentioned earlier when I was doing the character creation, basically anything I say in this game applies to the remaster too, outside of a very few specific circumstances. I don't know how many hours I have in this game, and I don't know if you've ever parried. Parrying is not easy, but this is probably the easiest parrying in any Soulsborne game, aside from possibly Demon Souls. I don't know if the system's the same. Light attack while falling is a plunging attack, which we don't get to do that because we killed the Asylum Demon. Attack an enemy from behind, you'll do a critical hit. Specifically, you will do a backstab. There are no random crits in Dark Souls, this being a skill-based game. Now, this actually gives me an excuse to go over a weapon's critical modifier, because I didn't actually go over like the various damage types and stuff. Physical is your physical damage. The attack type determines whether it's doing regular or thrust damage. In the example of the longsword, the small or light attack does slash, the large attack does thrust. So that's kind of something to keep in mind there. And then if we look at... it doesn't do any magic fire or lightning damage. And what the critical is, that is not extra damage that is tacked on top of the crit. I believe that is a percentage of bonus damage that is added on whenever you perform a critical attack. There are 2 types of critical attacks in this game. You have seen me perform both. If you attack an enemy at the right angle from behind, you will backstab them. Backstabbing, I believe, does the normal critical amount. It adds that. Then the second type of critical attack, which you'll see me perform right here, again, is a riposte. Is a special sort of critical attack you can get after successfully parrying an enemy. Now, ripostes, being trickier to pull off, have a hidden modifier that does even more critical damage. Now, some weapons have a boosted critical modifier. Mostly rapiers and knives have a higher crit modifier, so they encourage parrying and backstabbing play. Yeah, see, parry, repel an enemy attack. After parrying, if it's successful, press right attack or light attack to do a riposte. Just use the running attack 99% of the time. That is actually, I appreciate you actually mentioning that, because that is something you can do. If you are dashing and hit light attack, you will do a running attack. I very rarely use those, but they're there. I prefer using backstabs and ripostes whenever possible, especially when dealing with crowds of melee units, because one of the really nice things about using critical attacks like that is while you are performing them, you are invincible. So enemy attacks will just fly right through you while you're busy stabbing their friend through the gut. So let me go ahead and actually add a couple more placeholders here. Put the black separation crystal there, put the dark sign there. The job goes straight ahead, and we are about to leave the asylum. But not before we pick up a hidden treasure that's like right over here on this ledge. Soul of a Lost Undead. That is a consumable item. You can use that, or pop it as it's known. You can pop that to get 200 souls. I'm going to recommend that if you are playing along, you do not want to pop that. Save that for later. Because there is actually an NPC you can give that to who will give you more souls than you can pop it for.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.
Welcome to Firelink Shrine, and this is the only tip the game gives you. In Lordran, level up and kindle at bonfires. So now that we've made it out of the asylum, bonfires act as checkpoints like they always have. However, we now actually have some things we can do. Level up, which we will do in a minute. Kindle, if you have any liquid humanity on you, you can offer liquid humanity to the bonfire to stoke it. And what that will do is it will increase the amount of Estus you get out of it. You'll notice we had 5 when we came here, but as soon as we rested here, we got 10. This is a special bonfire, and I'll explain why in a minute. Reverse hollowing. Much like kindling, you require stocked liquid humanity. You give one up, and you become an actual human instead of this beef jerky man. But here we have a friendly NPC, so let's see what he has to say. Any NPC that is not initially attacking you is always considered friendly, so mind where you swing your weapons, because most don't like it if you hit them.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first, but there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now. Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are, actually, 2 bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town. Ring them both, and something happens. Brilliant, right? Not much to go on, but I have a feeling that won't stop you. So, off you go. It is why you came, isn't it? To this accursed land of the undead?
This is the Crestfallen Warrior. He's pretty important for like the first third of the game because he really kind of gets you started and gives you tips and hints on where to go if you seem to be stuck. And the game actually does check like your current progress and what your status might happen to be at the time for specific things he might say to you. Like this next one, I believe, for instance.
Ah, your face. You're practically hollow. But who knows? Going hollow could solve quite a bit. What? Restoring your humanity? Well, there are a few ways to go about it. Collected bit by bit from corpses. Or you can butter up a cleric and get yourself summoned. And the quickest way, although I never do it, is to kill a healthy undead and pillage its humanity. Coveting thy neighbor is only human, after all. What are you looking at? Don't try anything clever. You might regret it.
Trust me, dude, I have no inclination towards trying to attack you. You would probably floor me at this point. Because, despite the fact that this guy might have a bit of an attitude and he's not really up for doing much of anything, if you attack him, he will show you that he is a warrior for a reason, and he will also parry the hell out of you.
What? You want to hear more? Oh, that's all we need. Another inquisitive soul. Well, listen carefully then. One of the bells is up above in the undead church, but the lift is broken. You'll have to climb the stairs up the ruins and access the undead burg through the waterway. The other bell is back down below the undead burg, within the plague-infested Blight Town. But I'd die again before I step foot in that cesspool.
Cool. Anything else?
Bloody hell, what is it now? You ask too many questions.
Nothing wrong with being inquisitive.
What now? I'm not up for chatting. Leave me alone.
Okay, we've exhausted his dialogue. He's got nothing more to say. So I mentioned earlier that that bonfire is special, and there's a specific reason why. That reason is this poor girl locked in a cage here. No response, she cannot speak. I believe her name is Anastasia of Astora. She is a character that is known as a firekeeper. The bonfire up above is linked to her life. As long as she lives, that bonfire will already come pre-stoked to, I think, level 1. Because, or maybe it's level 2. Because technically, every bonfire has 5 levels. Level 0, which means you haven't lit it yet. Level 1, when you first light it, gives you 5 Estus. Level 2, which is what this one is, gives you 10 Estus. And then levels 3 and 4, which can be stoked later, which will give you 15 and 20 Estus, respectively. So, the thing is, with this kind of bonfire, though, because it's linked to the Firekeeper, if she ever dies, it reverts to a level 0 bonfire permanently. So, we don't want her to die. Or at least that's how it works for most Firekeepers. Anastasia's a bit special, but we'll see that coming up later. For now, I want to run around Firelink and loot all the goodies that are around here. Don't want to accidentally use the dark sign and consume all of my souls by accident. And then pressing select or back, you open the gesture menu. You saw me open this once on accident, but this is basically emotes. Emotes are basically useless outside of online, but you can use them for role-playing purposes if you want, which is primarily what I use them for. So, who are you?
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thoroland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
Oh, addressing yourself with the royal multiple, are we? Or the royal plural, aren't we pompous?
Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance, but I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you.
Oh, first you act all pompous, then you try to bribe me to get away from you. How smarmy can you get?
Oh my, you again. Oh, I know. How about this? I have to await my companions here anyway. So what if I were to teach you some miracles? Would that please you?
Sure.
Very well. Then first, a covenant with the gods.
And here we get our first covenant. Do we want to abandon our former covenant? Well, we don't have one. We're not abandoning anything, so sure.
Now let me share my miracles. Only their ultimate effectiveness will be determined by your efforts and your faith.
Okay, so I'm going to go over covenants very briefly here. Covenants are primarily a multiplayer thing, but they do have single-player impacts. Covenants are basically like little clubs or guilds that you can join, each one geared towards either cooperation or PvP, and they will each give you benefits for ranking up in them, if you can rank up in them at all. The Way of White here, which is the one we've just joined, is the bare basic co-op covenant that doesn't have any ranks. You can't grow in the Way of White at all. As far as, like, multiplayer is concerned, I believe Way of White members have higher priority for summons. They have an easier time summoning people. And as far as PvE stuff is concerned, being a Way of White member just unlocks this guy as a merchant. That's literally it. So, if you don't want to shop with this guy, you don't have to. You can skip Way of White entirely. There's no penalties for joining it or not. I just think it's usually a good idea because I like, you know, just being completionist mainly.
My companions are Milady and her young knights. She is young, but burdened by an undead mission. We are her defenses, to keep her from harm.
Milady and her young knights, you're here by yourself, dude.
An undead mission? Regrettably, I cannot share that with you. But you are my pupil. Perhaps if you show your faith.
Oh, so first you talk pompous, then you try to bribe me, then you act crazy talking about people that don't exist, and now you're trying to get me to bribe you. Yeah, you are very, very sketchy. No, you are not having my hard-earned souls. Go get your bribes elsewhere.
I'm afraid that may be difficult, for our missions are sacred.
There's an NPC later that'll tell you what he can tell you for free, so there's no reason to ever pay this guy anything. If it's not obvious, he's a very corrupt priest. Now, if you're actually interested in playing a faith build, this guy is your earliest miracle teacher. You can learn some basic miracles here, you can get some basic tools of the trade. However, you can get some stuff for free.
Come again. The effectiveness of the teachings depend upon your faith.
I am talking to my audience here. How rude. But you can actually get some stuff for free if you go up this way. So first up here, we got a Soul of the Lost Undead. I'm going to be keeping that for later. And then this is the lift that the Crestfallen Warrior was talking about. You'll notice there's no actual like elevators or anything here. However, that's not a bottomless pit. We can just drop right on down. We don't even take fall damage. And there's a little stash of treasure right down here. Supposedly, this is stuff that Petrus has stashed. Okay, I already didn't like him from his attitude, but now he's got cracked red eye orb, so he's definitely not up to any good. Well, that seems like his gear. He was holding a Morning Star earlier. A Homeward Bone, those are helpful. I will actually stock those right now. Because you can use those to warp back to a bonfire, regardless of where you are. And then Lloyd's Talismans. Lloyd's Talismans are a PvP item. They are pretty much useless. I'll use the Cracked Red Eye Orb as a placeholder, just because I can't use it. The Cracked Red Eye Orb, much like the Black Separation Crystal, is an online play item. You use that to invade the world of another player, but you can only invade in very specific areas. Okay, I don't want anything to do with these skeletons, so I'm going to run away from them. Call me Sir Robin, because I am bravely running away, and I am not ashamed of it. Those skeletons will quite literally flame me alive. All the Lost Undead. Roll down here. And of course, figures, one time I try to do it on camera, I miss it. Get down here, rest of the bonfire. That should reset their positions. Okay. There's a few other items in the Firelink area that I want to pick up first before we move on. Something else I want to note is this open chest over here. This chest here is a unique mechanic that, as far as I'm aware, only Dark Souls 1 has. This is referred to as the Firelink Shrine Lost and Found chest. If there is an item that is considered critical for core gameplay progression, if you somehow manage to lose it, it will reappear here. So you can never get permanently screwed if some weird jiggery-pokery happens to you. Another Soul of the Lost Undead. We actually do have business in that graveyard over there, but I'll be going there in a minute. Let's see, I got those fire bombs up there, I got that humanity, so the next couple of items I want to loot are up here on this ledge. Now, up here is where we're supposed to go. This goes towards the Undead Burg. Oh, okay, so I was actually about to make a discussion about parries there. Parrying in this game is, I refer to it as reactive parrying, compared to the proactive parrying of Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. You react fast enough, you can get a parry, and then you can get a riposte. Now, I use reactive and proactive because Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 have a faster game and combat flow speed than Dark Souls 1 does. Kind of to the point where you have to know in advance what tell is going to happen before the enemy does said tell if you want to parry them. So, yeah. If it's not immediately obvious, if I haven't already made that clear by how I've been talking, I much prefer Dark Souls 1 over any of the other Soulsborne games that I've played. Just a large attack of that rat. Now, it's important to note your environment whenever you're deciding to do an attack, because if I had tried, like, small attacking this guy, my sword would have clanged off the wall like that, and I would have been left vulnerable to his attacks. And those rats are venomous. They will poison you. I wanted to come up here not only to loot some of those items, but to also kill that firebomb throwing guy up here, because he would pelt us with fire while we're trying to kill this guy. Now, something else about parries and ripostes, that before I get sidetracked again, is you may have noticed I actually missed a parry there and took a little bit of damage, but I didn't flinch or anything. Parries will give you super armor if the attack that's hitting you is light enough. And now what happened there, that was called a partial parry. The damage did get reduced, but the parry itself did not work. Ooh, I almost didn't make that. Okay, so the game doesn't explain how to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and do so. If you run at a ledge while sprinting, hit the B button again, or whatever button is your run/dodge button, while you're sprinting, and you will do a short horizontal jump. There are very few instances where the game actually has you use that. Mostly the jump is for getting into little side areas for goodies. Alright, so I want to level up some, and these early levels are going to be very important. So, to start, I want to pump a bunch of points into attunement. And I actually want to do a smidge of grinding to have as few souls as possible after I level up. So I need like 750 or so, something like that. So killing these guys should get me the souls I need. Now you may notice I'm getting a lot more souls for these guys, besides the fact that they're just, in general, stronger enemies. Something that's going on here, and one of the reasons I like using backstabs and riposte for the damage boost, is I'm taking advantage of a mechanic called overkill. Ooh. What overkill is if you manage to kill an enemy with an attack that does, I believe, it's 120% of their max health. So if you overkill them by more than 20%, your soul yields will be increased by 20%, which is pretty nice. So getting good at backstabs and parries means you'll get more experience overall in the long run. So getting our attunement to 10 gave us an attunement slot. Getting it up to 12 will get us to 2. I want to get my attunement to 14. But for now, I want to have the minimum amount of souls that I can, because now I'm going to be doing some suicide runs. I want to be going to areas that I really shouldn't be going to yet to pick up some items. The first of which is this graveyard. If I really wanted to, I could slowly but surely fight my way through this graveyard. But it's just easier for me to run past everything, pick up the loot that I actually care about, and, well, just pick up all the loot, really, because I'm not going to use half of this stuff, probably. But pick up the loot and just try and get out without dying. It's a roughly... Ow. Ow! Yeah. If I wasn't already dead, that blood loss definitely would have killed me. But, at least now I can explain what happens when you die, because I'm not done with that suicide run yet. Okay, so I had like 38 souls or something like that, so... when you die, you get sent back to the last bonfire you rested at, which is why it's always a good idea to rest at a bonfire when you come across one, because that way you can update your respawn position. And when you do die... Let me see if I can see it from up here. No, I can't. Can I see it from here? Okay, you kind of see like that little green mist over there above a dark patch. That is my bloodstain. The souls, and any liquid humanity, if I had any, that I was carrying on me when I died are inside that bloodstain. I have to run back to that and pick it up to get my stuff back. If I die again, before picking that up, everything on that bloodstain will go bye-bye and is gone for good. Now, one of the items I picked up by doing that jump is a Ring of Sacrifice. This mystical ring was created in a sacrificial rite of Velka, the goddess of sin. Its wearer will lose nothing upon death, but the ring itself breaks. So specifically what Rings of Sacrifice do is when you die, it prevents you from dropping a bloodstain. This is important because what I'm going to be using them for is sort of like extra lives. I'm not going to be wearing them preemptively, but if I know I have an active bloodstain that I want to get back, I will put one on, because if I die, it won't remove the current bloodstain that I have. Now, this bloodstain has literally nothing on it, so I don't care if I lose this or not, but that will change in the future. So grab that, just to show you how that works. Okay, if I'm going to die anywhere, I'm going to die around here. So grab that. That's probably one of the most overpowered weapons in the game right there. I'm not going to use it, but it's there. Here's our free pair of binoculars. Woo! I managed to do a running jump up that hill. That is like a 50-50 chance of whether or not you can actually get that to work. It's either you manage to make that and run past all these dudes, or the game decides, no, you're not going to be running up there, and you get mobbed to death or pushed off the cliff or something. So, yeah. Fun times. Something else that happens when you die, by the way. If you die while you are in human form, you will revert to hollow form, which is the form we're in right now, the Beef Jerky Man. Man, 2 for 2. I have not yet to do that right. Okay, that is Suicide Run Part 1 down. Next is going to be Suicide Run Part 2. We went to the graveyard, which we weren't supposed to go to yet. Next, we're going to head down to the ruins of New Londo. I'm not sure if the Crestfallen Warrior has said anything about New Londo yet, but there's definitely some items down there. Now, we're not doing sequence breaking yet. The true sequence breaks require the Master Key. But just doing what I'm doing right now, regardless of what you have in your inventory from your starting gift or whatever, you can do these before going to the burg. You don't need a special key or anything to get all the stuff that I'm showing you now. So, I'm not going to bother killing these guys because I don't care about my souls at the moment, because I'm probably going to lose them going down this way. I do, however, care about this thing, the S-Stock. That is our first thrusting sword, which is a rapier-style weapon, and I do want to equip that. Now, if you actually look at it, the base damage is worse than the longsword by 5 points. But you'll notice... Okay, so this doesn't have a crit modifier on it. The thing with thrusting swords is, I mentioned earlier when talking about critical attacks... Oh, hold on. Thrusting swords, like the S-Stock, have a hidden critical modifier that's exclusive to them that makes them do even more damage on riposte than the bonus that riposte themselves normally give. So, I don't remember if the Crestfallen Warrior mentioned it or not, but this area is full of ghosts. You cannot harm the ghosts. They are incorporeal. Your attacks will phase right through them, and their attacks will ignore any armor you have. So, we're just going to go over here, grab this item they're guarding, and try to get out. If I can't get out, oh well. Woo! I dodged that somehow. Call me Pac-Man, because I just ran through a horde of 4 ghosts and didn't get hit. Keeping my points. Woo-woo! Unfortunately, we are not done with the suicide running yet, though. We still have a lot more to do. Now, from here, we will actually be doing some true sequence breaking because we need the Master Key to go where I'm going to go next. But that item I just picked up there was a Firekeeper Soul. I want that, and I want to take this to Anastasia because she's a Firekeeper. She can actually use that. So while we're riding up here, let's take a look at that Firekeeper Soul. Soul of a long-lost Firekeeper. Each Firekeeper is a corporeal manifestation of her bonfire and a draw for the humanity which is offered to her. Her soul is gnawed by infinite humanity and can boost the power of precious Estus flasks. It can be used to gain humanity and restore HP at the cost of losing the Firekeeper Soul to reinforce the Estus flask. So, specifically how Firekeeper Souls work is they work like a quintuple humanity. Like, we have the regular humanity and the twin humanity. The Firekeeper Soul is a quint humanity. You can consume it to gain 5 liquid humanity and get all your health back, or you can take it to a Firekeeper, give it to the Firekeeper, and reinforce your Estus Flask. So now we have an Estus Flask +1. That increases how much HP the Estus will restore. I'm going to try to not use my Estus yet. I want to save it for very specific parts of this run, because it's only going to be a suicide run for about half of it. Once I get past a certain point, I actually am going to care about what I have on me. So, we want to try and do as much as we can as far as, words are escaping me. We want to try and do as much as we can without using an Estus Flask. So normally you can't open this door because you require a very specific key. But we have the Master Key. So we can just open this door, go straight out here, and run the risk of getting lost. The Valley of Drakes. There is some very good stuff out here. Now, something I'm going to warn you about specifically for you Dark Souls Remastered players. If you are playing along, there are specific items and specific enemies you do not want to interact with due to how, if you are playing online, how those items would affect your multiplayer availability. Because Dark Souls Remastered not only uses the 10 plus or minus 10% formula that this game does, it also uses a formula from Dark Souls 3 that takes the highest level weapon in your possession into account. And some of the items we'll be getting around here, or could potentially be getting around here, are classed as +5 weapons despite being base power because they are unique weapons. And picking those weapons up will really screw up your matchmaking. So, if you're playing along on Remastered and you care about playing online, take heed of any items I tell you to avoid. Whew. Just barely dodged that. Let's run past these guys before they decide to fry us with their lightning breath. Because remember, lightning is effectively armor piercing. Okay. Now, I actually do want to go to that bridge they're guarding, but first, over on this side of the valley, there's a bonfire. I want to take advantage of this first. Whew, okay. Alright, now for the next part of the suicide run. We're going to go onto that bridge and get what they're guarding and try and run back. Now, these guys at this point can probably one-shot us, so we want to try and dodge as much as we can. Now, ideally, I want this guy to do a swoop. No, he didn't do a swoop. So, grab this. I want all this stuff. Specifically what I wanted from that... Woo! Okay, I lucked out there. Specifically what I wanted from that was I wanted the spider shield. The bandit equipment is helpful because it's a lighter set of armor, so I can actually wear more of it, but I specifically wanted the spider shield. Remember how I mentioned that of the 3 recommended starting classes, Bandit probably had the best starting gear because of that shield? The Spider Shield is better than the Heater Shield in basically every way. I think it's a little bit heavier, but otherwise... Yeah, it's a little bit heavier, but otherwise it's better. As you can see by looking at the stats, it has a little bit less lightning resistance, but unless you're going out here and fighting those drakes, you're not going to be fighting anything using lightning. It has slightly more fire resistance, slightly more stability, and, more importantly, Shield of the Savage Mountain Bandits, uniquely shaped with a large black spider etched upon it, has resistance to poison. Every shield in the game has a hidden modifier that reduces the effectiveness of status effects on you if the status-afflicting attack hits the shield first. Now, most shields have like a 50% reduction for most of those. The Spider Shield is unique in that it has 100% poison and toxin resistance. Any attack that hits it that would normally cause poison or toxin gets completely negated if you have the Spider Shield. And since the Spider Shield also has really good physical and fire protection, it is probably the best standard shield for early game, because the vast majority of enemies are either going to be using physical damage, fire damage, or attempting to poison you. So now I want to go this way. Now, if I can help it, there's a dude out here that I would rather not kill, but depending on how tenacious he feels like being, I might have to kill him. Ooh, that was bad. Ooh. Okay. I managed to get past him. I mainly wanted the Grass Crush Shield for that. Now, there are a few other items I do want, but... I'm going to step here real quick. I think now's a good time to adjust our items. So, let's see. Can I wear the full Brigand set? Okay, like, that's fine. Can I wear the armor? No, the armor's still too heavy, so I'm going to take that off. Let's see. I think that'll do for now. Yeah, that should do fine. Okay, so I want to run past this guy. Where did he go? The hell are you doing up here? Okay, I was trying to backstab him to get him off the cliff, but... Take that! Okay. Now this is going to daze him for a little bit, because he's got to waste time getting back up. Which gives us time to run away. Now, there are two paths we can take from here. I want to take the path going up first. Because there are items up here that I want to grab. The first item I want to grab is actually that corpse right there. We get a full set of leather armor, a longbow, and some feather arrows. The main thing I wanted that for was for the bow. I will be using the bow a lot, actually. But that's the only longbow you can find. I don't think merchants will sell it. And otherwise, you have to farm enemies that have them to get one. This guy's not a threat, by the way. He's like a little goody critter. We'll leave him alone for now. I'll come for him later, much like I'll go for that Black Knight down there. I'll be coming back for both of those guys much later on. Because they have drops that I want, and they're not guaranteed. So I want to come back when I can maximize my chances of getting the stuff that I want. And going back to what I was saying earlier about the weapon-based matchmaking of Dark Souls Remastered, if you are playing Remastered, you definitely do not want to be fighting that Black Knight. Because if they drop any of their equipment drops, that will screw up your matchmaking. Which is a hard thing to consider, because Black Knight equipment's really, really good. Okay, we have another enemy here that we want to run past, uses lightning damage. This guy is a mini-boss. We're not too fussed about him. I'm going to dodge out of the way of that. Yep, nice try. Okay, we don't want to talk to that NPC yet. He's minding his own business. We have no reason to bother him. Now, there's a couple of items I want to grab here. And a few enemies I want to kill. Now, thankfully, due to where we are, these enemies are weak enough that I can actually kill them with the weapons I've got unupgraded. Valley of Drakes is considered a later game area, so fighting the enemies down there would just be completely infeasible. But mostly I'm killing these guys to get them out of my way. Now, there's a bunch of stuff I want to do around here. So, yeah, it's just going to be one of those things. I want to kill this guy, because he'll follow me if I don't. You drop anything? Nope. Okay. Now, that guy in particular, and others like him, will actually drop a specific item that I want later. But, okay, he's going to come charging out of the church. You didn't drop anything, that's fine. I want to come over here and grab this. That'll be handy. And there's something else I want to do that's going to involve me running past all of these guys. The main one I'm concerned with is that giant pig. He may not look like a pig from here, it's that big metallic thing, but trust me, that is a big giant pig. Specifically, that is a boar. So, I also want to kill this guy. Because this guy will cause us problems later. Come on, come around the corner. Oh no, it's you! You're the guy who causes problems. Yeah, this guy is a unique hollow soldier. As you can see, he ran back here and shut the gate. Because ordinarily, you're supposed to come from the other side. He sees you approaching and bars your entry, but since we came in from the back, we can disengage his trap by coming at it from the other side. Okay. I want to try and kill this guy if I can. That'll make dealing with Pumbaa here a lot easier. Now... Ooh. I don't know how he didn't manage to knock me over because I don't have any poise, but... Okay. I'm past the point where he cares, so... Alright, so down here is where the spider shield's gonna come in handy, because we have more of these rats! So you can see, I mentioned earlier that they can poison. Ow, like that. But you can see, ow, they poisoned me. They might actually kill me here, holy crap. Yep, there we go. I might actually want to swap to the longsword because the S-Stock has trouble hitting them. But like I said, this is a suicide run. I'm not particularly too fussed about losing stuff. Yeah, now I'm back here, so... I'll have to make a little bit of a trip back, but there's other stuff I can do. I just need to kill all those dudes again. And thankfully, the guy who shuts the gate, I think, stays dead, so that's not a problem. Okay. I'll go over what that is when it's actually relevant. Right now, we don't care. Now, a tip I'm going to give anybody who might be playing along or might be trying to practice, if you want to practice parries, something important to note, you can parry with your shield up. So if your timing is a little off and you hit the button too late, you'll still block the attack. It's not ideal, but it's good for practice. Ooh! Nice, we got another one. Okay. That'll save me some souls later. Okay, now I have to kill this guy again because he's going to come charging out of the church. Yeah. Rats get another. Yep. Oh, another one. 3 in a row ain't bad, considering I don't have any humanity on me. Because drop rates is one of the things that humanity affects. Oh. Ah, crap. He came down here to melee me. Oh, that's actually cute. Watch out for Pumbaa. Now, something funny, you can actually backstab this guy because you can see his butthole's completely unguarded. All right, I actually want to go up here real quick because Pumbaa can't follow me up here. Nobody's coming up from behind, so... Okay. Looking over my pathing, I'm actually going to use an Estus here. Because we'll actually be getting our 10 Estus back. Ow! That stung. Woo! Okay. Pumbaa would have been the death of us then. Okay. Alright, let's get our... Where is our sword? Let's get our sword here. This might have an easier time killing those rats. That's a bot. You get out of here. Now you may notice while I'm blocking with my shield, my stamina regenerates a lot slower. I'll take that. That's something important to note. You kind of want to feather the block button if you're trying to maintain optimal stamina management. Especially if you're in a situation where you're taking a lot of stamina damage. So I have a couple of reasons for coming around this way, because we're actually, had we followed the intended path and gone to the Berg from Firelink Shrine, we would have popped out down there. So we are in the area the game wants us to go, we're just doing it backwards. We can get some unique treasure here. It's easier to grab these now, because they'll just be a lot trickier to get later. And we also want to get this bonfire. Whew, that's nice. Ah, that's much better. Now we're actually going to have to go through Pumbaa's trap the intended way, but at least getting past him won't be a problem. Now you may be noticing when I'm initiating combat with enemies that haven't aggroed onto me yet, I walk instead of run. Ooh! That's because your footfalls actually do make noise. If you're moving at full speed like this, enemies will actually notice your presence and turn around. Like, watch, this spear dude up here? And when I run, he'll hear me and turn around. If I walk, he wouldn't have heard me. I know the second I hit my attack button, he's going to try and stab me again, and that'll end up in a death. And I actually have a liquid humanity now, so I don't want to lose that. Okay, so you're just content to turtle and not really do much of anything. There we go. Gotcha. Alright. So what I want to do is I want to go this way and kick down a ladder. This will come in handy later. So now we don't have to bypass the, we don't have to go by the rats anymore at least, so we can just run back the normal way. dropped his shield. I don't care, but it's nice, I guess. Right, I want to go up this way just because it'll be easier to avoid Piggy over there. Now, you don't want to get directly behind him because he will buck. I was trying to backstab him, but I guess not. Whoa! Nice try! He really wanted me. Oh! You followed me up here! How did Pumbaa let you through? I guess that works out. Okay, so there's one more thing I want to do around here. Idiots. There we go. I called them idiots, but that was actually a really smart thing for them to do, staggering their attacks like that. Because it threw off my parry timing and made it to where I had to play the defensive for a little bit. Alright. Now, there's actually an item inside that building there I want to grab, but I'm going to go rest over at this bonfire first, because that thing is guarded by not one, but two unique enemies, which if they decide to double team me, will probably end up with me dying again. So, yeah, not exactly on my list of ideas of a good time. Make sure you don't follow me in there. Alright, so I don't want to kill this big guy here. I don't want to kill him, I just want to get past him. Ow! Of course the lock-on failed to work. Lock when using Estus. Estus is really good for in-battle healing. Now, this guy's too big, we can't backstab him. However, we can parry him, but we also can't riposte him. So, I'm more than content just to run past him and grab what I need, because he was guarding another Firekeeper soul. We will need to kill him later, but that is not today. So we take this down, and hey, look where we are. Firelink Shrine. And back to Anastasia's bonfire to get our Estus refilled. Ooh, that was close. Okay, there's an item up here I want to grab. I want to grab this. Oh, I tripped. Oh well. That probably won't be the last time that'll happen. It's been a lot of goof-ups with this. I'm blaming the streamer curse. Yeah, now I'm actually somewhat concerned for my long-term health because I do have a humanity. So, how I actually ended up getting that humanity, you notice I got it on the bridge. That actually goes back to what the Crestfallen Warrior was saying about how to regain your humanity. One of the things he mentioned was collecting it bit by bit from corpses. That is reference to a mechanic. I forget exactly what it's called, but basically how it works is if you are in an area that has a boss where the boss has not yet been killed, and you kill a specifically human enemy, or an enemy that is human-like, or in the case of skeletons, was a human at one point in the past. It fills an invisible counter, and when that counter hits predefined thresholds, which goes up over time, you will get a free liquid humanity. You can tell that this happens because when you kill an enemy normally, here, I'll use this guy as a demonstration. You notice how when I killed him, the souls came out of him as sort of like a white cloud? When you have collected a humanity from this mechanic, that cloud will have a black core. And I actually do intend on taking advantage of that mechanic, at least early on. But I'll explain that when I actually get to that. So, we've got everything we need from the Berg. Oh, I actually forgot to go to Anastasia. Oh well. I can do this with a +1 Estus flask. It's not a huge deal. I'm not going to backtrack just for that, so... Now, I'm not grabbing those other 2 pieces of loot there because if you see that and think that that's an obvious trap, congratulations, you'd be right. It is an obvious trap. And if you try to grab those items on the right side of the thing, it'll wake up and try to kill you. And as long as I'm doing these suicide runs, I don't want him blocking my way. Okay, you gotta be careful when you're doing that because sometimes you can get stuck on their tail. I've actually had it happen before where I managed to jump past him, but then his tail collision would, like, clip me. As he was turning around, I'd get snagged on his tail and he threw me off the cliff. So, not a fun time. It's janky, but it happens. So I'm also going to be running this episode a little bit long. Yeah, I could probably end it here in a minute, I suppose. Yeah, I probably should, actually. But, I think I will get one more item in my little list, and then we will call it a night. Because what I'm about to pick up is probably the most important item on our little checklist of doing all these early, like, sequence breaky kind of runs. Okay, so we are now again at the point where I don't want to waste Estus, because I don't want to make that backtrack all the way to Firelink to get more. Okay, he missed. I can run past him, and there really is not much you can do about it. So now we're back here in the basin. Instead of going up the cliff towards the Crystal Lizard, which was that shiny thing, instead of going up towards that, I want to go down towards these trees. There's some items I can grab, and there is an enemy I actually want to fight. I want to equip the Grass Crest Shield. So the Grass Crest Shield is not good as a shield. You can still parry with it, which is worth something. But blocking with it's not a good idea, because it has, I think, like 95 physical resist or something. It's a really bad actual blocking shield. But what it is good for is it's good as a stat stick. By the way, as soon as you come in here, roll. Because that guy's right there. We want to lure him up here. The Grass Crest Shield's good as a stat stick, though, if you're two-handing. Because any passive effects that a shield would give you, you still get it while the shield's on your back from two-handing. And in the Grass Crest Shield's case, it's stamina regeneration bonuses. Which is very helpful against this guy, Hable the Rock. Whoop. So, at this point in the game, Haven will just straight up one-shot me, unless it's a very generous glancing blow. So you want to watch what he's doing, and if he's two-handing, don't even try to parry. Unless your timing is, like, pixel perfect, a two-handed swing will just blow through your parry, and he will squash you flatter than a roadkill pancake. So, ideally what you want to do is, with a thrusting sword, you want to try parrying him to death, or chain backstabbing. Woo! Yeah, you gotta be really careful, because his swings are slow, the timings can be a little wonky. And like I said, at this point, anything he does, aside from just a glance, very generous glancing blow, will kill me in one hit. So I cannot afford to mess this up. Now, fortunately, as you can see here, two-handing the S-Stock actually does very slightly increase the backstab damage. Woo! Come here. Oh! I two-handed my weapon at the wrong time and got smashed. Yep, that's what happens when you're not careful. Oh, man. Okay, getting back to him shouldn't be a problem. I do want to equip my Ring of Sacrifice, though, just so I can get my... Bloodstain back, because that did have a humanity on it. Nope, nice try, buddy. I'm not letting you get the better of me. So, thankfully, Havel's really slow, or Havel, or however you say his name. He's really slow, so I can outpace him, grab my Bloodstain, and then take my ring off. Because I really do not want to have my ring wasted when I don't have a Bloodstain to pick up. But man, tonight's just been a night of goofs. Messing up jumps. Okay, roll as soon as I get in here. Yeah, messing up jumps. Whoa! You! Oh! Okay, you're playing hardball now, Havel. Oh, wow. Streamer curse is in full force tonight. I see how it is. Away with you! Down the cliff you go! Thankfully, it's just that guy and Havel to deal with, so... Assuming nothing else untowards happens, I should be able to get my humanity back no problem. Now, granted, it is just one humanity, so if I lose that, it's not a huge deal. That'll be easy enough to get back. But it's still something I'd rather not lose, because humanity actually has a wide variety of effects when you have it stocked in liquid form. So... Whew, nice try. Okay, dodged that. Let's head back up to the level we were at, get our Bloodstain, and we can try this again. I will say it has been a while since Havel has killed me. Especially multiple times like that. Okay, got our humanity back. Alright, Havel, let's play. Woo! Okay, his back's to the wall. So, you gonna two-hand? Yes, you are. Nope. That did it. Yeah, down you go. And we get Havel's ring. This is a ring I will be wearing often and will probably almost never take off. This ring was named after Havel the Rock, Lord Gwyn's old battlefield compatriot. Havel's men wore the ring to express faith in their leader and to carry a heavier load. So what's important about this is that this increases your maximum equip load by 50%. It is insane. So with that, we can actually wear full suits of armor and still fast roll. It is so, so good. And that is one of the two rings that I absolutely need before starting. Well, yeah, that one's more absolute need. The other one's just kind of nice to have, but not necessary. It just helps. Oh, I can see the Black Knight going up the ridge? No, he's not going up it. He's heading back towards his leash location. But that's okay. And he'll probably aggro me when I try to come by. Yep, he sees me. I just killed Havel. What do you think you can do? Yeah, I'm going to head back to that bonfire in the tunnel and then probably call it a night. We are not done with the starting run yet. There is technically two more areas I need to go to. But they're on the way back via the Valley of Drakes, so it's only going to be a little bit of a sidetrack, but we've done enough for tonight, so I think this is a good starting episode. We've got a lot of the tutorial information that's front-loaded, got all that out of the way. We got through the tutorial, y'all watched me punch a big demon in the ass for 20 minutes, and we are doing our beginning game sequence breaks. We're almost done with it, so I think this is a good place to stop. I hope y'all enjoyed and are looking forward to the next episode. I will see y'all later. Good night, everybody, and sleep well.